My name is Bob Vandeboom. You're at VDB Farms, Organic Farms here. And what we do is 100% grass-fed, grass-finished beef.
My name is Beth Vandeboom, and I farm here on VDB Organic Farms with my husband Bob. My husband and I decided to be organic farmers because we really believe in the health of not only the animals but the land, our earth. That's really, really important to us is what are we putting in the soil or on our earth and keeping it healthy. I would say for somebody that is going to go and change their diet over it, and they're going to look for farms that are organic, you want to really look for certified organic. If the farm is certified organic, since as we are, you cannot use any chemicals or pesticides or sprays on that land. So I think when farms just say, well, we're organic, we don't spray anything, you still don't know what they're putting in those pastures and what their practices are. When you're buying certified organic foods, you're getting really high quality nutrition.
We have a 100-acre grazing farm. Grazing farm meaning that my cattle don't see any grain whatsoever. They're eating the green pastures you see behind us, and what it is managed intensive grazing. I control what's in my pastures. I plant what needs to be in there. I need the carbohydrates, the proteins, the mineral mix they get, the water quality. We never have to use antibiotics or pesticides or fly sprays for the cattle for several reasons. One is the wind will keep the flies off the cattle when it's breezy enough. And it's also the fact that they'll get nutrition, everything in their pasture. The cattle have access to sunshine, fresh air. We have water in every pasture for them. They have shade in the summer if need be. And they also have shelter in the farm we rent behind us that has windbreaks and a barn for them to get out of for the severe weather.
I would say look for those certified organic farms. The farmers put a lot of time and effort into doing their logs for the certification. The certifiers come once a year and they do a whole day worth of looking at basically your logbook. So when it says certified organic, you know that you're getting a really clean product.
So I've been asked before from people on tours, students, that what's the most important course that you would use for farming. And personally, I believe math is the biggest skill set I would probably be using here. So every day I give my cattle feed that they would eat in one day. So you can see math is important for me. An animal that's 1,000-pound cattle. And that cattle eats 3% of its body weight. So now you're talking that animal's going to eat 30 pounds of feed a day. Well, but you have to figure out when they're not eating feed here, I have to have enough feed for winter for them. So our winter here in Wisconsin is about, I figure 150 days roughly. So I have 150 days times 30 pounds is 4,500 pounds. And I've got 75 cattle out there. So you can see math is important for me. Also, I have an ATV where every spring I go out and spread red and white clover on my pastures. So I have 90 acres or 100 acres of pasture out there. And if I want to put 5 pounds of red clover and 2 pounds of white clover on there, I've got to know out how many bags of feed I want to order or seed to order, because my seed company won't keep buying it back if I order too much. I also need to know how fast I have to go on my ATV to spread this, and it's basically a 30-foot width. So math is the biggest skill set that I think anybody could use for farming.
Our pastures, we have alfalfa and red clover and different types of grasses in our pastures. So you have to figure out what you need for those pastures, because the animals need proteins, carbohydrates, and fats, just like humans do. If you ate sugar all day, eventually you would get sick. Well, the same with the cattle. If they need a certain amount of fats, carbohydrates, and proteins. So how are those cattle getting that? Just grazing on pasture. So you have to figure out and know what to put in those pastures.
So the reason my wife and I chose to become organic farm and a grazing farm is, for one thing, is the health of the animal. So they get protein, which they get from the legumes, the alfalfa, the red clover, and the white clover I grow. They get carbohydrates from the 3 or 4 or 5 different grasses I grow in my pastures. It's all around healthier aspect for the cattle, because compared to, let's say, confinement animals, a lot of those farmers will have to feed antibiotics because they give them a real high dose of grain. And what happens when you start feeding cattle grain, it raises their pH in their rumen real high, and that's what makes E. coli grow. All cattle have E. coli, but once you feed an additive to it, especially grain, it raises the E. coli like 10 times higher than normal should be. Not that grass-fed beef will never have E. coli, but the chances of it are very, very slim compared to a grain-fed animal. Most of the feed out there that conventional farmers use is genetically modified organisms, or GMOs. It's a genetically modified feed where they splice a gene into that corn seed, and they're allowed to spray insecticides on the corn, but it kills all the weeds around it. Well, in my opinion, the jury's still out as to what's going to happen in the future with genetically modified organisms affecting the health of human beings. So the health benefits are also that when you have grass-fed animals, you get high omega-3s compared to omega-6s. When you do high omega-3s, that's the good fat that people should be eating. You get the omega-3s in fish oil, in plants. So you want to have a 2-to-1 ratio of omega-3s to omega-6s. Once you start feeding corn to a cattle, it changes the ratio in there. So now you may be talking 10 to 15 omega-6s compared to 1 omega-3s, which throws it completely off. And that's why a lot of the medical people are saying reduce your consumption of beef, because now you're dealing with high omega-6s, which clogs the arteries and has detrimental aspects to the health of human beings. In the long run, I believe that the beef is healthier, tastes better, but it comes down to, customers always say, well, it's a lot more expensive than conventional in a store. And I go, you're correct, it is, but you're getting what you pay for. And in the long run, you're eating healthy, which is going to help your body in the long run, compared to later on eating the conventional foods with the genetically modified organisms or the pesticides, the herbicides on it. We can't use any of that here. We don't want to use any of that stuff here because we know it's bad for human beings. The biggest reason we do it is we know basically what you put in your body is feeding your cells, and you are what your animals eat. So if your animals are eating garbage, or genetically modified organisms or pesticides or herbicides, or being sprayed with insecticides, all that goes into the meat, and in the long run, it's going to affect your body.